From South Florida streets to university campuses to the Florida Statehouse to Congress, we the people are divided, watching war in real time and its fallout that is so personal to so many. Those divisions are emotional, historical, political, and our government reflects that, deeply involved in supporting Israel's goal to eliminate Hamas and terror organizations and to find ways to protect civilians under Hamas control. We begin with the South Florida member of Congress on the front lines of all of that. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Democrat from Weston, live with us today. Congresswoman, good morning.
Good morning, Glenna. Good to be with you as always.
Thank you. And so I want to start there with the divide in the Democratic Party, not so much with South Florida Democrats, which is really interesting, but because of the past week, because of watching war in real time, seeing civilian deaths, there is a real divide in the party over what to do about that. And I wonder if you would address that, the censure of the only Palestinian member of Congress, the support for Israel that did not get 15 Democratic votes. Take us behind the scenes there and play that out. What do you expect?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's important to underscore that I think the quote unquote divide in the Democratic Party, particularly in our caucus, is really being overstated. The overwhelming majority of Democrats are supportive of the U.S.-Israel relationship, condemned Hamas's savage attack on innocent Israelis that killed 1,400, including some Americans, and that ended up capturing 240 hostages, most of which are still in detainment. There are a smaller number of Democrats that, unfortunately, are not supportive, could not bring themselves to make that condemnation on the House floor. They had a variety of reasons. And then as we've moved forward, again, we've had similar votes, most of which on the side of opposition related to their belief that they wanted more acknowledgement of Palestinian civilians. But there is very clearly widespread condemnation and unity to make sure that Israel is able to rid Hamas from their border and prevent them from ever being able to perpetrate those atrocities again.
Yeah, and to your point, the real issue is the ability, unlike so many wars in decades past, the ability to watch every day, not only to watch every day the civilian casualties of what is an effort to eradicate terrorism, but also misinformation, disinformation, clouded information. How much of that plays into a public sentiment that really is watching civilian catastrophe and not knowing what to do about it in this goal to eradicate terrorism?
I mean, look, there are obviously, even though it is Hamas numbers, which can't fully be trusted, thousands of civilians that Hamas is the cause of death for. I mean, Hamas is to blame for the civilian deaths. They are the ones that attacked Israel. They broke a ceasefire that was in place on October 6th. They use their own civilians as human shields. I mean, Glenna, there's a reason that the United States doesn't put the Pentagon underneath Walter Reed Medical Center or an Army base under Broward General. It's because we want to make sure that we can protect civilian life and separate combatants from our civilians. Hamas has no interest in that. They've stated very clearly that they consider the loss of their civilians the casualties of war and that they're martyrs to the cause. And they've also stated very clearly their intention is not to only do this the first time, but there'll be a second, a third, and a thousandth, and that they just sort of write off their thousands of deaths. So we have to make sure that Israel can rid Gaza of Hamas.
So I want to bring it home a little bit and the effects in South Florida. I mean, just there are rallies in South Florida, pretty large rallies addressing the Palestinian quest for land, a historic land dispute, one just in Miami Beach yesterday, where I couldn't use the video of this without permission. These are aerials we're showing, but I did see video of a woman literally saying they should have just finished the job, talking about jihad and Hamas. And so when you address South Florida and your constituents, how do you hear that and how do you process this conflating of an historic land dispute with terror.
You know, Glenna, even with you describing that, I'm getting sick to my stomach, hearing the way that some of these protesters, far too many of them, are not just anti-Israel, but they embrace the notion of the meaning of from the river to the sea, which by definition is the eradication of Israel. It is a Hamas rallying cry and death to Jews all over the world. When we have people marching in the streets, it's one thing to march in support of Palestinian rights, of support of a two-state solution, which I support, two states living side by side in freedom and security. It's another to be advocating for the destruction of Israel, to say that the Hamas should have finished the job. There have been chants of people all at these protests all over the country saying that they should do it again. And so the pain that Jews all over the world are feeling right now is raw and real. But at the end of the day, we are supportive of making sure that the terrorist threat can be ended so that it is not possible to perpetrate that again. And then we can hopefully move forward and try to reestablish conversations that might end these controversies and stop the killing of civilians, Israeli and Palestinian, hopefully once and for all.
And you see, and you see the Biden administration kind of struggling to walk that line firmly in support of Israel and its goals, and yet watching the civilian catastrophe and asking for a pause, not going for a ceasefire, but a humanitarian pause. This week, Biden's reelection team was in town in South Florida, in Miami, along with the Florida team. And his campaign manager was saying the recent polls showing very close in the margins, and possibly former President Trump overtaking him at the moment, very in a couple of points in the polls. They're sort of discounting the polls as a snapshot in time, way too soon. How do you see it?
I mean, I would point you to the election results on Tuesday. Polls are interesting, and a year out don't mean a whole lot. They're fun for pundits to chew on, but on Tuesday, you had overwhelmingly success for Democratic candidates all across the country, in Pennsylvania, in Ohio, with a ballot initiative that underscored that in red states, in purple states, in blue states, Americans support a woman's right to make her own reproductive decisions and to control her body, and Republicans are on the wrong side of that. There was success in Virginia in elections, in Kentucky. So when voters are asked to come to the polls and choose candidates that reflect their views and their values, they're voting for Democrats. And so I would say that the Republicans should see serious warning flags and maybe come to the table and sit down and try to work together with us. They don't appear to be getting the message, unfortunately.
So 1 year to go this week, and sometimes that goes really fast. Congresswoman
sure.
Debbie Wasserman Schultz, great to see you and great to have you on the program.
You as well. Thanks, Glenna.